Hey guys, welcome back. Tisha here, back for another chapter reading of Sister Wife, a memoir of faith, family, and finding freedom by Christine Brown Woolley. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit the like button as we jump into chapter 33. You already know what you need to do. You know, I love a good fairy tale. Ursula, bare chested Scottish lords, the yellow towel that made me feel like Rapunzel, the wholehearted love of my father, who called me princess. Cody called me a princess, issuing an ultimatum when I said I wanted to move to Utah. It could have been another gut punch. Is this really who I am? Someone who makes unfair demands and throws emotional temper tantrums. But by then, I knew exactly how hard I had tried. Even better, I knew exactly who I was. My whole life, I had been the fun one, the one who provided the levity to keep our pre Robin triumvirate together, Triumvirate, together. After I left our religion, I began to believe that we have one life, and in that one life, I want to be kind, to send out every bit of good energy I've got while I'm here. But I also want to live a life that's good for me. In wanting to move to Utah, I was thinking about my future castle. To be fair, I may have been thinking more about the moat. I had evicted Cody from my bedroom and stopped needing him as a partner for activities with our kids. I had left my religion and I had begun my fitness journey. I knew I didn't want to live in the same house as my family. I didn't even want to be in the same town with anyone but Janelle and any of the kids. Wow. She's telling her truth. I desperately wanted to move to Utah to be near my adult kids and my mom. I needed a nudge, a reminder of the woman I had worked so hard to become. I called my mom. I gotta leave Cody, I told her. I'm not sure what I expected, but I wanted to start with the truth. I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to leave. Her response was immediate, almost as if she had been waiting for me to call her, or like she's my mom and she loves me and will always know what I need. Okay, she said, you're going to put both of your feet firmly on the ground and you're going to take a deep breath and then you're going to start moving forward. You already know what you need to do. Oh, it's impossible to describe how it felt to have her so immediately there for me. I could weep with her, but there was comfort in it now. What do you need to do? She asked. Well, I need to move to Utah, I said. I need to be close to my kids. I felt that in my bones. McKelty lives 6 hours from Aspen, so somewhere in between. My dad and siblings all lived in Utah. What is it going to take to move to Utah? My mom asked. And she helped me with the basics. Then she said, you need to start making decisions based on joy, not fear. Start making decisions for you. I remember believing she was selfish when she put herself to leave my dad. I was so worried about what my kids would think, but we had come so far since mom and I had started those honest conversations after Cody and I got married. I felt like I could tell her anything, so I did. I feel like I'm being selfish, I said. It's your life, my mom said. Yours. It's not selfish to want a good life. You have to look out for yourself. It's self, it's love, it's not selfish. She was incredible. And it was crazy for me to hear it from her because she loves Cody. When she sees him, she gives him a big hug. And I doubt that will ever change. She hugs Robin, she hugs all the kids. She's the most loving person. But she's clear that loving Cody doesn't mean he's the best one for her daughter. In fact, I thought she had been happy when I married him. She hadn't. I knew things had felt awkward every time we came to town, but at first that was because I was still working on my relationship with my mom. And then maybe it was because I dragged the circus along with me. I don't know why she would think her mother would be happy when her mother left polygamy. Her mother left. I don't think her mother wanted that for her daughter, but she understood that her daughter had to go on her own path. Let's continue. But that wasn't it. She struggled with him as my husband. She saw that I always put him first, not my kids and not me. Wow. And she saw that he liked it that way. Oh, that's serious. You never had a good marriage, she told me. She was ready for me to put myself first. They're manipulating you, she told me as I talked about my fears of leaving the family. No, I said, of course they're not. They're fine. We talked about some of the things that had been going on with the property, the kids, and my finances. And she said, that's manipulation. It is. He financially abused these women. He did. He did. Oh, wow. She helped me see clearly why my gut desperately wanted out of there. And then I talked with Janelle. Janelle and I had grown close, especially when she moved into her RV on that Coyote Pass property. With Janelle was born one of my favorite rituals and one that had been banned by my faith. Mormons, both mainstream and fundamentalists, don't drink coffee because it's banned in the words of wisdom, which advises against anything that can lead to addiction. So if that's the case, then Cody should have been banned from Robin because that's his addiction. I mean, it is. you can, you can lose your activities recommend for drinking coffee, so it was a big deal. Janelle, our rebel, had the first coffee maker of the Sister Wives. In Flagstaff, when she lived in the RV, she would come over and have a cup of coffee. That changed our relationship entirely. So, over a cup of coffee, I told Janelle I wanted to leave Cody. It wasn't the first time we had talked about it, and in her mind, it may have been a hypothetical. You can't leave Cody until you create your own source of income, she said immediately. She's pragmatic, but that was not the response I expected. You need to be able to support yourself financially because otherwise, what will you do? It wasn't that she was thinking along the same lines herself. She was full in on Coyote Pass and felt her relationship with Cody was fine, though she wasn't happy about the COVID situation with her kids. But she fully supported me, even when I had started trying to sort through it in Vegas. She did have questions. I've only raised my kids with you, I remember her saying. What does this mean for us? Janelle and I hadn't always been on the same page when we were younger, but we had developed something true. I trust her and trust her absolutely with my kids. Janelle will always be my sister wife, and I believe our children will always think both of us as mom. I hope so. Janelle helped me think through everything that would need to happen for me to leave Cody and move to Utah. I still need to have a conversation with the big guy, not the one with the ringlets. I didn't believe in a testimony like I had with Robin, but I was a religious person who loved Jesus, even if I no longer believed Joseph Smith was a prophet or in the Book of Mormon. Deciding to leave Cody felt spiritual to me because I felt I needed to have a strong connection with God to do it. I didn't want God to be upset with me or to be sad, so I talked with him. Dear God, it's me, Christine. You good with this? Yo, Christine, you're a parent just like I am, and I want to see you happy just like you want to see your kids happy. It was that simple. If God is a loving, nurturing entity, then why would he bind me to Cody and friends for all eternity? That was my second strongest testimony. She put it in quotes, the word testimony. My strongest was still that Robin should be a part of the family. But when you think about it, they're related. Maybe God was sending the same message both times. Robin should be with Cody. You should not be with Cody. You should both be with your soulmates, or at least with people who love you as much as you love them. I sat down with my journal, trying not to panic about all I would need to do to leave Cody. My goal was to move to Utah in September, so I backtracked on what needed to happen before then. That gave me about 9 months. I needed to get out of Flagstaff. All my bad memories live in Flagstaff. Oh my gosh, I have great friends in Flagstaff. They're lovely, but I need to move to Utah. And I needed to create a plan to make that happen. I had to get my finances in order and create a strict budget so I could save enough money for us to move because it's so freaking expensive. I needed to downsize so everything would fit into one moving truck. I needed to find a place to live and sell my house or rent it. I had to figure out if Gwendolyn would come with me to Utah for school, how it would work for Isabel, who would be graduating, what to do with my plot on Coyote Pass, what kind of visitation Cody would want with Truly, and how to tell the family. And then I would need to plan Isabel's graduation party. I tackled my finances first. With money, everything had been done as a family. We each had a separate bank account, but if someone came up short or had an emergency, we would pull resources. I guess that's where she's talking about the resources being the family budget. We had a committee that would essentially vote to make decisions. In the early days, Janelle was one of our breadwinners, and her car broke down. The rest of us handed over cash to take care of it. Sometimes the decisions were harder, like when Mary wanted to buy a bed and breakfast, a lovely idea because the house had belonged to her great grandparents, but it was a lot of money that we didn't have because our finances were so tied up with Cody's that further complicated matters. We always tossed around ideas for businesses that could make money, for gyms to jewelry to real estate. I would need to disentangle myself, but we all became much more independent after we left Lehigh. I think many women fear leaving their spouses because of the money issue, but so many women have talked to me and said things got better in every way, including financially, after they left. I think that comes from knowing what you can depend on and planning your own budget, which I'd already tasted. I couldn't rely on Cody for groceries with our committee dynamic, but I could depend on myself. Polygamous marriages are tough because there is no legal documentation. The house was in my name and Cody's. The plot on Coyote Pass was in my name and Cody and Robin's. I couldn't ask for half of anything, but Robin could because she legally married Cody. She could ask for a portion of my house if she left Cody. All the money I had already contributed to the family account or family property would stay there. That's the one that I can't get with. I really, really feel like these women, the OG3, have been cheated in so many ways because the profit from their homes went into the house that Robin has. Robin has since sold that home and they've given them nothing. I do not think that it's fair to expect for them to have that money put into that pot and you never give it back. That's why the sister wives started talking about our legacy for the kids. As soon as we moved to Flagstaff, I started selling a women's clothing line. Mary did too. I started making enough money that I could survive on just that, but I still owed thousands on Truly's hospital bills. I worked my butt off to pay it off with the clothing business. Then Isabel's surgery needed to be paid, and it was $50,000 deductible. But I got some family money for that one. Once I paid off my big debts, I realized, okay, now I can think logically about leaving. Okay, so family money did help her with Isabel's surgery, but she had to cover the $200,000 of Truly's by herself. Whoa, I didn't know that. Did y'all? I went on vacations with my kids, usually family reunions. I went to some Brown family reunions. I made sure my family was in a place to feel comfortable. In other words, she tricked them. Okay, Christine, I'm mad at it. With each step, I found peace and security. I had always looked for security in my family, but it eluded me. But when it was just me and my space, it was wonderful. I continue to work on me to become more confident and secure. I felt calm and ready even while I didn't know my future or what obstacles might arise. I didn't know if the show would continue. I didn't know if my kids would be okay with the change, but I laid out a goal to achieve every month. Check, check, check. My conversations with Janelle and my mom got me there. Once I had a plan I could act on, rather than this vague idea that I wanted to maybe leave someday, it became real. I made every decision with joy. I was one step closer toward my kids and the possibility of happiness, whatever that might look like. I didn't know it would be so great to live my life for myself and for my kids. It felt simple, a whole new dynamic, different from anything I had before. I felt myself becoming more powerful with each step, and I realized it had started even before my conversation with my mom. I had already come to terms with my faith and figured out that God and I were good, and I had already reclaimed my space. To prepare my house for sale, I took care of the repairs myself, met with the realtor by myself, and cleaned the house myself so a photographer could come in. I sold my bedroom set. I did not need to bring that bad juju to my new space. I posted pictures and kept it as nondescript as possible to keep my identity private. If people figured out I was selling my stuff, they might figure out I was leaving before I told the rest of the family. I did not know that she sold her stuff before telling the family. Wow, she wasn't playing. I didn't need for them to find out on the internet. Cody and I had picked the set together and filmed it for the show. It was old world and I loved it. I had tapestries up and a lot of gold and matching bedding, and it was a beautiful room. When I was pregnant with McKelty, Cody got me a picture of a woman on horseback with a knight standing near. I love the pre how do you pronounce this word? Raphaelite, Raphaelite. I probably jacked it up. Fair maiden stuff, but I didn't know what to do with that one or the others I had. They're from the past and they felt important, but they didn't feel like me anymore. I realized all of it symbolized a relationship where we tried for a long time, but no one should have to try so hard in a relationship. I donated all of it. Why Cody always think people want pictures? Like he loved buying prints and stuff. Ultimately, every decision made needed to help me toward my goal of fitting everything in the U-Haul. By the time I was done, I had a few odds and ends, as well as the snowblower, which I didn't want to get rid of until I knew I didn't need to clear out the driveway for people looking at the house. Cody had already laid some of his cards out on the table. When I kicked him out of the house, he didn't say, "Can we talk to our therapist?" or "I'm brokenhearted," or "What about the kids?" He said, "This is my house." That's what he cared about. The family had help with the down payment, but I made every mortgage payment. I paid for all the repairs. He had some decor, and we had bought some furniture together. So there were items he visited from time to time, but it was not his house. I was blown away that he did not talk about the kids. Cody said on the show that he was most worried about whether I would find a new boyfriend who would take his money. He was hurt. He wasn't hurt that I was leaving or concerned about Truly. Exactly. He says some messed up stuff around that table. And the crazy thing is, her husband has his own money. He didn't need Cody's money. And how could he take his money when she couldn't even get any money from the cheapskate? He was worried that my imaginary boyfriend would break into his pots of gold. There was no other guy, and there wouldn't be for 2 years, but there was Truly, our funny, gorgeous, old soul girl. She should have been first. I felt shocked, but I also think he has always been greedy. His business deals always felt a bit questionable to me. I've watched him through the years at family meetings, and he always decided where the money went. By the time we split up the family account, there was no money left. And we had been doing the show for 14 years. Oh my goodness. So he probably moved all that money around. That's what he did. He moved that money into another account and said there was nothing left. 14 years. Wow. Dude, your kids don't have shoes and coats, but you have a new convertible. That car made me mad. We were all driving crap cars and minivans. We just played along like I guess we were new people now that we have this show. He said he needed it for some alone time. Obviously, it was because he wanted to date, not to dad and not to husband. She is really on this convertible. Interesting thing though is at some point We did see some of them get new cars. Robin had a bunch of different cars because she got a whole nother car this season. I can't keep up. Let me keep going. I learned recently because Janelle talked about it on the show that the family money hadn't been distributed evenly. My name was on the family account, so I could have looked at it, but it never occurred to me. But while I thought I was contributing to the family account by taking only what I needed, it turns out that the money was simply being spent elsewhere. I worked to be positive, but I also needed to work on my anger at myself. I felt embarrassed, especially when I realized my kids knew I was in a loveless marriage. My fans knew I was in a loveless marriage. My dad knew. It was humiliating. How could I allow it when I'm one of the most romantic people I know? Fair maidens, yellow towels, Scottish lords. What had I been thinking? You have been raised in what you called a cult that did not teach you your value, I would say. And because of that, there were things that you were unaware of. You're now in your 50s. So it's for over 40 years of deprogramming that has to be done. Number one. Number two, you allowed for Cody, all of you all did, to have control when he should have never had control. And because he was your husband and you trusted him, you didn't look into things. But I'm going to tell you like this, I'm not married yet. But when I was engaged, oh, I was checking accounts. This is our money. I'm a check. What had I been thinking? There have been some expert level gaslighting. People gaslighting because it works. People who don't gaslight don't expect it. They wouldn't think to do it. They take people at their word. Cody had a lot of words. We weren't loving enough or attractive enough or being nice enough, sister wives. We weren't loyal enough or following his orders. He wanted our independence until he started to push us out one by one. Then he used Janelle's independence against her to call her disloyal. He used Mary's undenying loyalty against her when he convinced her to move to Flagstaff so he could use the money from the sale of her house in Vegas to pay for Robin's in Flagstaff by telling her he wanted a reconciliation before telling the camera he already considered himself divorced from her. Exactly. And the thing that was hard for me to understand with that is that even though he said that on camera, Mary was still trying to get in good with them. Mary was still on their side when Christine decided to leave. And Mary was a little nasty in the way that she walked off with Robin as Robin fake cried about Christine leaving. He pushed me out initially by saying he didn't find me attractive because I wasn't kind to my sister wife, but ultimately by taking his love away from my children. I realized my kids knew our marriage was broken, and I knew I was setting an example that it was okay to be in a loveless marriage and that it was okay to settle, that it was okay to be walked on and not have love and put yourself last. No, I would not set that example for my kids. I was frustrated with myself that I had let it go on for so long, but also that I just hadn't seen it. I hadn't been ready to see it exactly. I tried to give myself some grace for that. You never leave until you're ready. Very true. Very true. And that's not, see, here's the thing too. I think that because Christine was not not verbally, physically assaulted, that sometimes people don't realize that she was still abused. There's a lot of different abuses that went on here, emotional, financial, verbal, like it all happened. Why my signal keep going in? As I made my decision to leave, I realized some days needed to remain positive. Robin's wedding day will always be a good memory. Valentine's Day, for the most part, was lovely. Robin took over Passover, and those were good days. Mary's pajamas, Christmas at the cabin, Cody as a dad when the kids were little, the trip to Nauvoo, cooking with my sister wives at Thanksgiving, the parties, the kids growing up together. I didn't want to leave my life moving forward feeling bitter or negative about the life I had to lead to that point. I wanted to keep happy. Chapter 34. I had no regrets. One morning, as I talked with Janelle over coffee, I told her I didn't much like polygamy. No, no, stick with me here. I know this will be a surprise. Surprise. I think polygamy can cause a person to be too in her head, worried about too many relationships. Do the wives like me? Do they like Cody? Do they like him too much? Does he like me? If he does like me, will he just go to another wife? Whoa, Janelle said. Polygamy is why you're strong, and it's why you're going to be able to leave. You are more independent than a lot of women because you lived in plural marriage. I don't know if I believe that. And I say there's a lot of independent women, myself included, that did not live in plural marriage, that aren't living in marriage at all. And we do what we got to do. We raise our kids. Yeah. But okay, Janelle, if you say so. I guess she was saying that she was made stronger by it, but I don't know if I buy that either. What doesn't kill you and all that? She had a point, though. I would argue that women in monogamous marriages don't have to leave four people and all their children when they move to another state. The sister wives relationship complicated the breakup. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I had no regrets. I'd made the best of it for me and my family, including my sister wives. I'd worked deeply on myself, from jealousy to fitness to mothering to self care. On the other hand, I don't think Cody ever worried about whether he was enough. He didn't have to work to be a better person. I think polygamy makes guys lazy and women work harder. Yep. But I have built up strength and independence over the years, and no one would ever understand better than Janelle exactly what I was going through. I never would have predicted that having a sister wife would be a gift when it was time to go. Cody would later claim on camera that he was a prisoner in his marriages, that he couldn't just say, "Hey, bitch, I'm done with you." Charming. When I told him I was leaving, he immediately started talking about money. Not truly, not losing me. Well, we have to split everything 50-50, he said. No, I said. I made every house payment. I paid all of the utility bills. I did all the repairs. If I paid for my house, it makes no sense to give you half. Okay, this is one of the things. Like, I like the book. I've been enjoying myself reading the book, but Christine does a lot of repetitive things in here where she tells us the same conversation multiple times in multiple chapters. And that part of it, I'm not really liking, because while you're telling me that same thing that you just told me a few other chapters ago, you could have been giving me more juice, girl. You could have been telling me some more stuff, but that's just me wanting to be nosy. Oh my gosh, he was so mad. So here's a funny story. Originally, both our names were on the title to my house. But then he asked me to refinance the house so just my name was on the mortgage. Why, I asked. Now, here's the thing, it wasn't about her. That was about Robin's purchase, but let's keep going. Why, I asked. This way it will be an asset for you, he said. Gosh, that's altruistic and unexpected. I was a bit bummed because I had been excited to have our names together on a house like a real married couple. Girl, little did you know that that was a blessing in disguise, because if his name was still on that thing, he would have tried to get that. He wouldn't have wanted you wouldn't have been able to leave with that like you did. We didn't own much jointly, but it was nice of him to worry about me. Okay, I said. About a week later, he told me he couldn't finance his house with Robin. She hadn't yet found a place to buy if his name was on my mortgage. Oh, right. I felt like he was doing everything he could to disentangle himself from me and leave me as a single mom, and to further entangle himself with Robin. It was demoralizing and embarrassing, and it hurt that something that important to me could be taken away so quickly. But it may have worked out exactly as he said, as an asset for me. Yeah, it was. Here's the thing though, Robin couldn't get that house with his name on so many things. It makes me wonder just how bad Cody's finances are, because he did something with that 14 years of family money. Let's keep going. He still continued to argue the 50-50 angle. All right, how about this? I said. How about I keep the money from the sale of my house and you keep the property at Coyote Pass? Looking back, I wish I had negotiated for Mary and Janelle's names to be on that plot so it would be divided fairly, but instead I said, "You're getting a better deal." My piece would be worth more than what I would make on the house, but I needed to be done negotiating with Cody. So she's admitting that too. I kept saying that I feel like even though she had the house, that she still should have tried to collect some money from Coyote Pass because that was a lot and she had already put money into other houses and stuff. But she's letting us know here that that's true, that she actually didn't, end up on the top end, but she kind of did because she would have been stuck trying to fight and still having to deal with them when it came to that land. I took my name off the deed, which means I basically handed it to Cody and Robin rather than the family. Janelle and Mary would need to fight for their peace. In a way, it was good that the conversation wasn't emotional. He didn't seem to care at all that I was leaving, which tracked, but I knew the family would take it harder. I also needed to think about how our audience would take it. They had seen me tell Cody what I needed. They had seen me throw him out the room. They had seen my tears, shock, and outrage. I knew many of them were cheering for me, and it brought comfort. It has always been a little odd being a character on TV, but this time it would be so personal. I needed to be authentic, maybe more than I ever had been, because I knew I would serve as an example for so many. I was cheering for you, girl. A lot of us were. A lot of us was hoping that Mary would leave out with you, but that didn't happen. Let's keep going. We needed to tell our producer Tim immediately. I know that sounds crazy, but he would need to know for the storyline for this season, but also because it would likely become noticeable that I was packing and that Cody wasn't coming over. I told Cody he needed to tell Tim with me. Why do I need to be there? Of course. Why would you be there? You can't support this lady in anything. Anything. Cody wanted to know. You're the one who's leaving, right? But we needed to figure out our strategy for the network. Also, you're the reason I'm leaving. We met over Zoom, and Tim cried when we told him. I was afraid it was this, he said. By that time, we'd all spent so much time together that I think he genuinely cared about us. This was not the show I wanted to film. When we started the show, they told us that all reality television families break up. Nah, we said, that's not going to happen to us. We used our phones to film during that season because of COVID. So we worked through how to film the divorce. Tim stayed with us for another 2 years after that, and then he left in January 2024. I think it was too much to film our family falling apart, but I miss working with him. It was hard on the crew. They had to ask the same questions 5 times and relive it through everyone's paradigm and validate all of us and not take sides. Did they? Because I don't. Yeah, I would have taken a side. I'm sorry. I guess yeah. And then they spent hours going over it again as they edited. It was as if they lived it as much as we did. The producer needed to tell a story, so he broke down everything we lived through and had us talk about it. Those sessions were hard for us too. From there, I started planning Isabel's graduation. I wanted that to be a happy day for her, the kids, and the family. They wouldn't need to know I was leaving until after. Robin still didn't feel comfortable having family events inside with COVID testing. So we planned an outdoor event around the world theme. So she didn't feel okay with testing when it came to doing a party for Isabel, but it was okay for testing when it came to doing something for herself or her daughter or for Cody to go out of town. It's always about what's convenient for them. I can't stand that lady. The wind blew hard that day, so everything kept falling over and blowing away. We had tables set up to represent where each of the moms was from, so mine featured German food and pictures. We placed pictures of Isabel everywhere, but the wind made it a disaster. Isabel wanted me to sing for her. I got together with Robin's daughters, Aurora and Brianna, as well as Gabe, who has a great voice. We sang Natasha's Unwritten with everybody else learning the chorus and Aurora playing the guitar. I remember knowing this was probably the last thing that I would do with all the kids. It was a good day, and I think Isabel felt special and loved. Okay, I can read one more chapter. Chapter 35. It's about me. I told Gwendolyn I was leaving Cody. Oh, she said, it's about time. What? I said, shocked. I had expected sadness, maybe even tears. You haven't been happy for years, she said. Ouch. When I told her I was also moving to Utah, she said, of course you're going to move to Utah. So far, so good. She was lovely. She made it easy, and she was incredibly supportive. Do you want to move with me? I asked. No, college is free for me, she said. I'm just going to stay here on my own. Perfect. She had great grades and she got a scholarship. She had hoped to move out when she turned 18, like the rest of my kids, but the pandemic killed that idea. I told Maddie her daughter Evie needed surgery, and Janelle traveled to Maddie's new home in North Carolina to support and love on Evie. Maddie had moved after her husband got a job there in 2016. Truly, Isabel and I joined them. Hanging out with Maddie and Caleb as well as Hunter, I loosened up a bit. I drank too much. For me, that meant 3 glasses of wine. I needed to know that Maddie was okay with me leaving, as well as if I could still be her kid's Oma. Frankly, we were all surprised you stayed as long as you did, she said. Oh my gosh, the relief. But also, you were? We talked some more, and I wasn't being as careful as I should be because I had too much to drink. So this explains when Cody's like, she was telling Maddie, she was telling Janelle, she was telling my kids, and they knew da 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 da. This explains why she was feeling loose as a goose, and she started telling her stuff. It was also nice to talk with someone who didn't blame me, who understood. But I hadn't yet told Isabel. She overheard. Isabel has always been Daddy's girl, and she had been brokenhearted by his response to her surgery. So you messed up with Isabel? Dang, my signal went out. Hold on, let me pause it to wait for it to come back. So she let Truly over here and she let Isabel over here. She just didn't learn her lesson the first time, I guess. This hit her as another shock, another blow to the way she thought of her parents. I thought back to how upset I had been when my mom left my dad, how I had blamed her, and I felt sick. Isabel started to cry. When was the last time you saw your parents touch? Maddie asked Isabel as she registered her heartbreak. And when was the last time you felt like they had a good marriage? Hunter asked. Oh, wow. They're, oh, wow. They were able to help her come to terms with it in a way I never would have been able to. They could be more objective about it, but also talk about their own frustrations with Cody. In the end, Isabel supported me fully and said she understood why I had to leave. While I was still in North Carolina, I called Aspen and McKelty to let them know. They were also supportive and not surprised. I told Peyton over the phone, and then Janelle told the rest of her kids. Their support meant everything. So basically, she told her nucleus. And you know what? I don't blame her. I don't feel like she owed the others anything. She told them when she was ready to tell them. Now, some people may disagree, and that's okay. But yeah, I knew it would be just Truly and me heading to Utah, and I still needed to tell her. I hope to wait as long as possible. Now, that part I didn't like. I think she should have told Truly earlier. But I also needed to make plans, and McKelty was a big part of that. I can't wait until we move to Utah, I told McKelty on the phone one day. I heard Truly behind me. What? She said. Are we moving? Oh man. Yeah, I said we're moving. I ended my call with McKelty. When is everybody else coming? Truly asked, obviously not understanding all of it. It's just you and me, sweetie, I said. Are you divorcing dad? Am I divorcing dad? I didn't need a release. I wasn't legally married to him. I had already packed his stuff up and moved him out 7 months before. I did it while Truly was at school or sleeping because I wasn't ready for her to know yet because she was the one who it would impact the most. Okay, see, it's okay if we disagree on this, people. Tell me your opinions down below. She had 7 whole months to say something to her, and she didn't. And when she did find out, it was because she overheard it. I wish she would have sat down and started preparing truly earlier for that, rather than her finding out when she did and then not having a whole bunch of time to even really process her feelings. That I didn't like. It's an odd feeling to know that the thing that brought me the most joy, that I would be moving home to be closer to my family and I would bring my amazing baby girl with me, would be the thing that could cause her the most trauma. I knew she had friends with divorced parents, and those parents had fought in front of their kids and then gone to court to argue over houses and record albums and parental rights. I knew that those kids through the process of joint co- wandered through the process of joint custody and adjusting households if their parents would get back together. My decision came in an instant. We're already divorced, I said. Have you noticed anything different? Well, how long have you been divorced? She asked. I told her we had been divorced for several months. She said it hadn't been any different. Okay, I said, then nothing's going to change. She said she didn't want us to fight in front of her. And I told her we never had and we wouldn't start, and that she'd still see Cody. Am I finding out last? She asked. Yeah, I said. But I'm the one it impacts most. She's so smart. She was crying hard, and I could see she needed time to process it. She went to her room. Isabel asked if she could take Truly to a friend's home whose parents had recently divorced. When Truly got to the house, she said, Salutations, everyone, because that's the kind of kid she is. Someone asked her how she was. Well, I just found out that my mom and dad are divorced and we're moving to Utah, so I'm not doing well, she said. They spent the rest of the evening talking it through in a safe space. I told Cody immediately that Truly knew, and by the time she saw him a couple days later, she had already processed the news. Preparing to tell the rest of the family I was leaving Cody would be one of the hardest steps. I don't think she really processed it. As a child of divorce, that's not anything that is that quickly to process. And I was what, 8 when my parents got divorced? And I'm telling you, I still remember the conversation. I still remember sit down. I still remember how I felt, how mortified I was that I wasn't going to be able to see my daddy every day. Like I'm 41 and I remember. I called my mom. She told me that it would be a hard conversation and that was okay. She meant that when I have conversations, I tend to cave because I want everything and everyone to be fine. You're going to put both feet on the ground and you're going to take a deep breath, she said, and you're going to say what you need to say. And so I did. As I prepared, I figured Robin knew I had kicked Cody out because he brought his boxes back to her house. Janelle knew because we had been talking for months. Before I told the group altogether, I called Mary off camera. I didn't want to shock her in front of the audience. Wow. She let Mary know. I didn't know that. Did y'all know that? She let Mary know off camera. Wow. Really quick, I just want to tell you I'm leaving Cody. I told her. I don't think it's fair to tell you on camera. She sounded shocked. Whoa, she said, I have so many questions. I told her to think on them and that I would answer anything she had in person. Then we filmed it as I told the group. This would be the hardest meeting of my life. I didn't know if people would be understanding or if they would attack me or if they try to persuade me to stay, which would be the hardest thing to handle. I've been interested in color for a while, and on that day, I needed something that would help me feel strong and powerful. Red, not just scarlet. Oh, excuse me, not just red, but scarlet red. Red sweater, red sneakers. It felt necessary. Okay, is that why we picked a red color? Is that why we made sure we had the red blazer on in our cover? I see you, Christine. There would be many days when I wore green to feel calm, but not that day. I had everyone meet me outside my house, and we set up our phones to record it. And then I just blurted it out, which is how I do most things. I don't like major buildup, just say it. I'm leaving Cody. I need to make a choice to have joy in my life and peace. I told them there hasn't been a lot of hope at all until I decided to leave. Mary didn't ask many questions, even though she said she planned to. She looked as if she was in shock, but she already knew. That's what I'm surprised about because she did look like she was in shock. I'm just processing at this point, Mary said on camera. I told them I planned to move to Utah. I never said could move to Utah. Oh, I never said you could move to Utah, Cody said. Mm. You never asked if you could move. You said you were moving. Yes, yes, I did. He said he wanted joint custody of Truly, but that objection quickly disappeared, probably with the realization that he rarely saw her and it would be a hard argument to make. I find it ironic that now that I'm leaving, now he wants to be involved in my kids' lives. Now he wants 50-50 with them. I said during an interview, well, hell, he could have had 50-50 time with them the whole bleep time we lived here. I was furious. He doesn't get 50-50. He hasn't been around enough for that. Janelle, even though I had talked before about leaving, Cody cried. This made it real for her. I know she worried about how the split would affect our relationship and the relationship between our kids. You've just been so much the fabric of everything, she said, and talked about how intertwined our memories were. I think this is still family, I said. I think it's just going to look different. There were several times when they were sad, and they were sad when we were sad, and then they asked whether I was sure, and Robin got mad and made it about herself. Yep, that's exactly what she did. Call it out, Christine. Not are you okay? I'm so sad for you, but how does this affect me? This isn't what I signed up for, and you should stay in a crap marriage so I can have my fake version of polygamy or something. Thank you, Christine. This is hard, I thought, but it's also so good to just be honest. Everyone knew I had been frustrated for years and figured I would continue to be frustrated. I had started talking about leaving after Truly got sick. They may have figured it would never happen. All of a sudden, it was happening. They thought you were going to be like Mary and you were going to be okay with sitting by as he had functioning marriages with other people and he kept you on the back burner while taking your money and not caring about you and barely seeing your kids. Gwendolyn started college online because of the pandemic, then started going to classes on campus. After Isabel graduated from high school, I moved her to North Carolina to live with Maddie, and we know he didn't help with that either. I knew I would miss Isabel, but I love that she was being adventurous, and I knew she'd be safe with Maddie and Caleb. This was maybe step number 8 in the move to Utah list. Just before we took her to North Carolina, I put the house on the market and told Cody I had done so. Gwendolyn was incredible. While we were gone, she kept the Flagstaff house pristine for showings and made sure her dog, Noelle, was out when people came to see it. Within a week of us getting back from North Carolina, she found her own apartment and moved out. The house sold almost immediately. And while the first buyer backed out, we had another within a week. I met with the adults again to tell them Truly and I would be moving to Utah within 2 weeks. Cody lost his mind, even though I had told him in November that I was leaving him and that I was going to move to Utah. He said, as we recorded, that I had always been mean to Robin and I had never tried to have. What does this have to do with anything? Every time I think about this, I get annoyed because what does her moving have to do with Robin? And honestly, this is why she needs to hurry up and get out of here. Man, the way I would have given the business. He said I had never tried to have a good relationship with my sister wives, and then he yelled dramatically, "Man, just the knife in my kidneys over all these years. The sacrifices. The sacrifices that I've made to love you. Wasted." Y'all remember the infamous that day may be one of the only times it was hard to read my face. I can't believe he's saying this on camera, I was thinking. He sounds like an absolute narcissist. And then I thought, how insulting is this? It was a sacrifice for you? Here's what I remember about the day and the days that followed. Robin misconstructed, I think intentionally, and controlled my words. She did because she acted like Christine said she never wanted to see her kids when what she said was, let's keep it the way that it is. So I need time to work through this, and I'm still gonna be involved, but we're gonna keep it the way that it was, which is that I see your kids on holidays. She asked me if I wanted to work on my past relationships. Well, no, I don't want to live in the past, and that's why I'm leaving. I had tried to work on my relationship with Cody, but it was like shoveling mud. I'd worked on it, and the outside problems continued to pour in, and the mud certainly wasn't trying to help. I told her I needed some time. She took that as I didn't want anything to do with her or her kids, and she told her kids that crap. She did. That wasn't it. I just needed to recover and figure things out. When the bird turned my words against me, it felt like more of the same, a way to keep me and my children out of Cody's big picture. None of the kids did anything wrong. If any of the kids had done anything seriously wrong, then you work it out. That's what parents are for. You reach out, you say, let's chat, you say, I love you. That's not what happened. The greatest tragedy of all of this was what was happening with the kids. I love Robin's kids. I love all of our kids. But I was so over Robin that I thought, fine, if that's what she's going to do, and if that's what she's going to say, it means I won't have a relationship with those kids. And I think that's terrible, but they're her kids and I can't change it. They're not part of my life anymore. And that makes me sad. Robin later said that I would still be married to Cody until the church had approved the divorce, that I had to prove the marriage was broken or slept with someone else. That seemed inappropriate for a few reasons. First, I had already left the church, so I didn't need a spiritual release. Second, I didn't believe in the church, so I wasn't worried about their definition of when I could quit Cody. And third, I wasn't going to have a family meeting and let everybody know when I made my big move. I'll never kiss and tell. Well, I will, probably within the next 50 pages. Our divorce was strictly between us and built on years worth of problems. But Robin expecting so much attention for herself and her kids to the detriment of the other wives in combination with COVID exposed our problems. Christine, don't tell me you waited till the end to choose violence, girl. Okay. We have made, would we have made it if Robin hadn't come into the family? I don't know. As our kids got older and we became a 5-person house of empty nesters, our equilibrium might have tipped sideways. And I don't know that the family staying together was the best thing. And that's where we're going to end it. Let me tell you something. I don't think they would have made it. I think that in time, first of all, if they had this show, if they didn't have this show lined up, I don't think Robin would have ever been a part of the family. If this show didn't continue to receive money in that big family account, I think that Robin would have left. I think that Cody would have leaned more heavily on Janelle. And I still think in time, after being exposed and seeing some things, that Christine eventually would have gotten fed up and left. It happened the way that it had to happen. It's just unfortunate because I think of how much it damaged the kids in the process. I don't really care about the adults. It's the kids that I feel sorry for. Anyways, like the video. Let me know what you thought of this. She picking up now. Thank you guys so much. Until next time.